Hello, everyone. It's a blessing to be with you today. I'm here with dear friends from Texas, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you. I'm also here with Micah, who didn't particularly want to be on, but I've got her on today. And Micah, of course, my darling wife. And will you introduce yourselves to our listeners, please?
Well, I'm Jason Cattell. I'm with a ministry called Kingdom Crusades. I do large evangelistic crusades around Central America. Do a lot of work in Honduras and Nicaragua, Cuba, Latin American nations. And it's good to be with Bishop Evans and Micah here in England. And I got to bring my beautiful wife.
I'm Deidre Cattell, Jason's wife of 20 years. We have 5 children, and it is an honor and a blessing to be here today.
Well, we're so happy that you are with us, and we've had a great time yesterday talking about all sorts of things, and I suppose one of the things is that I'm still reflecting on is the leading of the Lord and how rich his leading is for our lives. How wonderful it is just to, choose to yield ourselves to him, to let his mind be our mind, and just to yield for his will to be done. And we met several years ago, didn't we?
It's about 7 years ago.
7 years ago. And so when we met, we were having miracle. I was guest speaker in Texas, and we were having beautiful miracles, wonderful miracle meetings, seeing blind eyes open, the lame walk, the deaf hearing, great testimonies. And you were interested, and we met up, and it's a thrill for me now. I'm observing you having all these tremendous meetings in arenas and thousands of people. And would you just share a little bit about the journey and how this has happened?
Well, it's been quite amazing. I was called to do international crusades when I was in Argentina. It was 2014. I went on my first mission trip to Argentina. And I remember I was thinking, I'm a business person. I don't have any supernatural gifts. But I went, and I thought I didn't fit. But what I did have was my testimony. And I was a drug addict for 13 years, cocaine addict. So I'm free from addiction. So that's all that I had to go to Argentina with. I remember sharing my testimony with a young man, actually to a small church, and one young man responded. So he came up, and I remember, I asked him, what does he need prayer for? And he said that he had a cocaine addiction. This righteous indignation, this hatred for cocaine just rose up in me, and I prayed for him, and he flew back and was radically touched by the Lord. And I ended up, the next time I went to Argentina, they were waiting for me to officiate their wedding because the marriage, they were living in sin. She didn't want to marry him because of his addiction. But anyway, so I'm there with the only thing that I had, which was my testimony. And the love of God is what hit that young man and brought him into freedom. And then so as I go back to Argentina the second time, I got touched by the Holy Spirit, to say the least. I went down under the power of God. I'm unconscious for about 20 or 30 minutes. And I woke up saying, I'll do it. It was the only thing coming out of my mouth. I was repeating, I'll do it, I'll do it. Just tears streaming down my face, this white cloud around me. And I don't even know what I'm agreeing to. I'm like, Lord, you asked me to do something. You never told me what it was. But I can't stop thinking about crusades. Up to that point, I was leading everybody in my hometown that looked like they were depressed to Jesus. So, the one thing I would say to anybody that's listening, if you want to do the big things for God, just take the small things that he gives you and do it well. Mm. I had salvation. That's all that I had. And so I'm giving away what I have to homeless people on the streets, and anybody that I see that looks like they're having a bad day, I would just talk to them and tell them about the goodness of Jesus. But I didn't just do it a little bit. I did it with passion. I would load up my back of my Jeep. I had a Jeep back then. I would put cases of water in the back of my Jeep and drive around in the bad part of towns just looking for anybody that I could start up a conversation.
Wow, so you were actively looking.
Yeah, I was using one bottle of water in the summertime to use that as a conversation. But I don't think it's a coincidence that I started out just loving people and putting myself in position to be a voice of hope for broken people. And then suddenly I get advanced to go to Argentina, and then I get advanced to do crusades. So when people see the crusades that I do today, they don't realize that it started out with a ministry of putting bottles of water in your truck, just loving on people.
It's interesting. You know, the other thing I've been thinking about is that word authentic and authenticity. And that's authentic, isn't it? You love people, so you want to reach people, you want to share the gospel with people, and it's anyone. And you've got the water in the back of your van, and you're speaking to people. You just love people, and the Lord then opens up the doors, and it just makes it wider.
That's exactly what happens. If you're faithful with a little, you'll be faithful with much.
Yes.
Okay, so he gives you more, but you have to be willing to do the work, as you know. There was more to it than just that. I mean, I served in a ministry with recovery drug addicts. You know, that was my background. I spent 13 years in a very deep cocaine addiction. About $2,000 US dollars a week in cocaine towards the end of my addiction. Demons in the house, completely insane lifestyle, absolutely immersed in darkness. So to help other drug addicts was my passion, because that's what I went through. But I served it with Celebrate Recovery with passion. Everything I had, I put all in. And then I remember one day I got a phone call with Celebrate Recovery. And it was these guys that were getting out of prison. And they said, we went to recovery in prison, but now they're sending us to AA, and we want Christ-centered recovery, and nobody will pick us up. So I said, let me see if I can get the vans from my church, and let me try to pick you guys up. And I worked it out to where I could get the vans. So we had 2 vans at our church, and I remember getting the guys, picking them up, and I could never get a van driver. So I would always go back, pick up a second round of guys, and then bring them back. And I was the ministry leader. So I'm the pastor, I'm the speaker, I'm the coordinator, I'm the van driver. And I did that every Thursday. But then I loved the guys so much, I went in every Tuesday and I discipled them.
Wow.
Then I would pick them up on Sundays and take them to church.
Wow.
Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, not for 6 months, but 4 years.
Wow.
Okay? And so there's no coincidence to me, in my opinion, if you were to ask me, is that connected to what I'm doing today? Of course it is.
Yeah.
I was extremely passionate about bringing people into the knowledge of
Tremendous.
Jesus because I found freedom and I wanted everyone else to be free.
Oh, it's beautiful.
But if you take the things that God gives you and you're faithful with it, you put it into action, then it's going to grow. It's a principle. Okay, what you sow, you're going to reap, right? But I will tell you, the mindset of a lot of my volunteers, they would say, "Well, I want to drive the van. I want to help you out 1 week," and then the next week they weren't available. Inconsistency in the volunteers. I wasn't a pastor. I didn't know that was a problem. But I'm going to tell you one thing I've learned. The ones that take their assignment serious, those are the ones that advance. The ones that don't take their assignment serious, those are the ones that continue going around the mountain.
That's such a great lesson for everyone listening. Yeah. So taking whatever God has given you to do that with all your heart. Do it
all
with
your
seriousness. And no matter how small or insignificant it may look today, if you do that faithfully, in 10 years' time, you're going to be perhaps doing something very different.
And see, the motive of my heart was not, I'm going to passionately help these halfway house, these guys coming out of prison. I'm going to passionately pursue or serve them so that I can be advanced. That wasn't my motive.
No.
My motive was love.
Yeah.
I loved them so much. I took my son, Blake. We went and ate with those guys in the halfway house. 60 felons.
Brilliant.
Okay, so that they would know that I didn't see myself as better than them. I just loved. And so I'm in this halfway house, loving these people with all my heart, and then my assignment slowly started to change. Okay, but my motive is so important. You don't do things so that you can be advanced. You don't do things to get anything back. You take what God gives you and you give it everything you've got because you love the Lord and you love the people. And that's what advances you. The motive of your heart is very important.
We call that stewarding your small yes as well, because God's going to grow you in your character in your small yes. And if you grumble in your small yes, you're going to grumble in your big yes. So he's going to develop you in your small yes, move you to glory. And then when you steward that yes well, he's going to move you to the next glory. So.
Oh, I like that.
It's like God's preparation for you. It's obedience is one thing, but also he's doing things in you to prepare you for what he is next.
That's wisdom.
For your ministry as well. So it's a bit of both.